My first song was Wayne by Wayne Shorter. It was called Fee Fi Fo Fum. This one is a song by Cannonball Adderley called Jive Samba. It's not really a samba. There is one spot in it, you gotta yell out though.
All right. Scott Laningham here with you and with the fabulous Red Young. Hey, Red.
Hey, Scott.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right.
We're listening to a little jive samba.
Who was playing on that?
You know, I'm trying to remember. I'm sure this is.
I know it's probably Mike.
This is Mike right here. We better listen to a little of Mike blowing. What do you say? Let's turn it back up for a second.
I've heard of my life.
Okay, you know what?
That's jive. That's so jive.
Jive Samba, Tender Madness. This is one that I recorded when I was playing with you at the Elephant Room, maybe a couple of years ago, something like that. Maybe sound about right?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll go for that.
And Bennett, I think that was Bennett Wood. Maybe Bennett Wood on the other tenor.
Wow.
You think? Sounded like him.
I don't know. Too many tenors.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm just doing fine. I went through a ton of videos to figure out what I wanted to talk about, what you wanted to hear. You know.
Well,
it was like a memory lane sort of thing. It's like, shoot, I didn't know I played that one. God, I played with those guys? Wow, cool.
You know, that email you sent me was mind-blowing. All the stuff you've done, and
yeah.
I knew a number of the people you've played with, but I didn't know this kind of a sweeping look at your history. And
oh yeah, it's just a bunch of stuff, you know. Like, I mean, when you start out playing at 3 years old, and you do your first concert at 9, and you're 72, that's a lot of time in there, you know. And
your
then
first
one
concert
thing led to another, which is cool.
So your first concert at 9, and I see you say was this Van Cliburn competition, or what was this?
No. I met Van Cliburn just after, and this was the interesting thing, because like classical musicians at the time were looked down upon by European. You know, it's like, you know, you're not Russian, so you can't be a good classical player. Well, Van Cliburn went over to Moscow and entered in the Tchaikovsky competition in 1958, and he won. The judge had to call Nikita Khrushchev, and he said, listen, what do I do? And he said, well, he's the best pianist, give it to him. And so that was Van Cliburn. Now, Van Cliburn, my second teacher, Grace Ward Langford, was a good friend of his, and she's the one that actually started the competition in Fort Worth. But when he came back from Russia, they did a ticker tape parade for him in New York. It's the only classical musician ever that happened with, because it was such a, wow, an American won over the Russians.
Wow.
And he was just, I mean, he played with passion, you know. And I met him like when I was 10, you know. He was like 6'2" or something, you know, big guy.
Mind blowing.
But yeah, and they're again at Fort Worth, you know. I mean,
had to call Khrushchev and say, is it okay to let him win?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah,
He won, yeah, okay. But I mean, what it did for all the pianists here in America is it lifted us up to, well,
Mm.
maybe we are good instead of being, just the bastard son, you know. So,
So you started at
but
3. You said you started playing piano, taking
well,
lessons,
yeah,
or
we used to
just
go to
been.
my grandmother's house, and she was a church singer. I mean, she'd travel up Chicago and sing in churches up there, or St. Louis, or Oklahoma City,
Yeah.
and we'd go over to her house, like Thanksgiving or whatever. And she had a piano, so I used to sit down at the piano, and instead of banging on it, I just, would, see how it worked. So she used to teach me little songs. Possum up the cemetery, raccoon on the ground. Raccoon said to someone, God, pass some Simmons down. That's that sort of stuff. Uh, but as soon as I got old enough, I mean, and I went to a kindergarten, Miss Massey's kindergarten, and I remember there was somebody that was on the staff that played a Chopin waltz. The you know, I can remember it. I need music now, but it made an impression on me, and I started playing, uh, actually studying classical music when I was 5. As soon as the teacher is Joyce Gilstrap Jones. I gave her
Mm.
the thing of, and as soon as I learned the notes of the piano, she'd make me stand over the other side of the room. She'd, okay, no, what's that note? 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 Okay, what are those notes? And I'd name every one of them.
So it was ear
So
training
she
you right off
discovered
the
I had
bat. Yeah.
perfect pitch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that was like, but I learned real fast, and I so
Now, when did Joyce Jones introduce you? When did you first remember the organ and encountering the organ with her?
well, she was a student at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary up in Fort Worth. She did a concert over there, and my parents took me over there, and she, big classical organ, had all the pistons and everything, and she did some pieces where it would take her like 5 minutes, to make all the stops, and then save that one and to save this one. So my dad kind of leaned over and said, "You think she's ready to just take off yet?" Because it looked like an airliner or something.
Right.
Yeah, but she did that. Her One of the things she was known for is playing the flight of the bumblebee with her feet,
And you
and
you
that was
turned me
it.
on. We've got the YouTube of that queued up. We should
Yeah,
play some of
yeah.
that,
Well, just
right?
check out a little part of that, because that thing is nuts.
Let's see if I can remember how to bring it up. Okay, here we go. Uh, and if I want to zoom into it so we can actually see what she's
Right.
doing here, because it does show her feet, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it
that's the
does.
whole thing. She's
Yeah,
playing the whole thing with her feet, and she's wearing a skirt too. So I don't know how she did.
yeah. You think you could do it wearing a skirt?
No,
I doubt it. Let's see. Let's
no,
check
I
out
don't
some
want
of
to.
this.
Tutu, maybe.
Okay, the audio.
Oh,
There we go. Can you hear that?
yeah. I mean, that's insane, man.
Good grief.
I can't even walk that fast.
Look at those feet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so what? And what's she playing with her hands? Just some chords
The
and
pop,
stuff?
shup, pop, pop,
Oh.
pop.
Oh, she's just playing the chords and she's playing the melody with her
Yeah.
feet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's a ridiculous piece. But,
Wow.
I mean, I saw that when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and it was just like, this is insane.
I wouldn't even think that that was possible, if I
No,
didn't.
when I saw it, I was like, it didn't register, because I was just a kid. It's like, I was just couldn't quite fathom it. But anyway, her husband was in the Army, so she got shipped off. And so at 10 years old, I studied with another teacher, that was Grace Ward Langford. And then Helen Joyce was after that. But uh, about 20 years ago, actually about 10 years ago, when I moved back to Austin, um, I had wondered what happened to her. And thanks to, Google and all that, I found out that she was actually up in Baylor. And she'd been teaching up at Baylor for 30 years. And of course, in the meantime, I'd gone from playing classical piano, because I did all this stuff, all that kind of stuff. Which is good for boogie piano, by the way. Chopin. But
just a couple steps away.
Anyway, I sent her an email or gave her a call or something, and she said, "Well, why don't you come up to Baylor? And I'd love to see you." I mean, it had been, 60 years, and I went up there, and she said, "So what are you doing now?" I said, "Well, I'm playing jazz organ." She said, "Well,
Wow.
So you're improvising?" I said, "Yeah." Well, she said she was teaching classical organists and church organists how to improvise as well. So we started talking about that, And it was just fascinating to reconnect with her after all these years.
Wow, and that's the first time that you guys had talked, or that she really knew what had become of you since then. Wow.
Right. Yeah,
And,
so I mean, you see one of your students, she knew I was good, but then,
oh, man.
I kind of progressed, like, when I got into junior high school, I wound up accompanying the chorus, because actually I was a real shy kid, I didn't talk much. So the way my introduction was to people was I'd find out where the piano was, and I'd sit down and play, and somebody would come over and say, "Oh, you play so well. Oh, thank you." And that would open up the conversation. So they'd talk to me. "How do you play like that?" "Oh, well,"
And so high school was where junior high and high school, you're in Fort Worth at this time,
Yeah,
right?
I was in Fort Worth, yeah.
Okay.
And Fort Worth had it was an interesting musical scene in Fort Worth, because it was like you had so many elements of music, because you had Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys lived there. You had Ornette Coleman and Dewey Redmond, who grew up there. You had King Curtis, so you had the R&B stuff. You had Delbert McClinton and Bruce Chanel, so you had that bunch, and then you had the classical stuff,
Sorry
and all
about
that. So it was just like a real wide variety of stuff. But there were three brothers basically that were from the Sandiford brothers, and Cody was the drummer. He played with Glenn Miller.
Oh.
And then Perry was in charge of the Fort Worth Public Schools music program. So there was that element. And then Sandy, the other brother, lived in Dallas. He had a big band. So it was like all this musical stuff. And my folks, none of my folks were. My mother and father didn't play music. My dad was a trumpet player originally, but when he turned 18, he actually went out to Jacksboro Highway. You heard about Jacksboro Highway, I'm sure. With all these.
I'm not sure I know
No.
what that was. What was
Okay. Fort Worth and Dallas were two different places.
Yeah.
Fort Worth, the Jacksboro Highway, that's where all the mafia guys and the blues guys hung out.
Oh, okay.
So Jimmy Reed had come down there and play, and Delbert had put a band together to back him up. But back in the 30s and 40s, it was all the mafioso guys that ran the clubs. They had big bands out there. My dad was actually a trumpet player, and he showed up on a gig, and he said he was on the bandstand, he was ready to play, and all of a sudden shots rang out. He called it a bucket of blood. That's where he played. Bucket of blood. So shots rang out. He left his trumpet on his chair, and he went out the back window, and he never picked it up again.
Never came back? Oh, he was done.
He said, "No, that's it. I don't want to be around any that kind of stuff." It was kind of rough. But,
Oh, man.
But what he did, he has a real good taste in music. So he started collecting 78 records. And it was, Mills Brothers and Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Louis Jordan and Cab Calloway and Glenn Miller and Tommy Dorsey and Mahalia Jackson. I mean, you name it. It's just like a wide gamut. King Cole Trio and Spike Jones.
Wow.
Because you got to have the humor in there. So, I mean, I grew up just listening to all that stuff. And what I would do is using my ear, since I had perfect pitch, I just sit down and just play along with the records, figure out what they were doing. So it got to a point where I could hear the thing one time and I knew exactly what key they were in, what chords they were doing. I didn't know the names of the chords, because I was classically trained. So I knew figured bass, but I didn't know anything else.
Do you think that's as true, Red, with young players now, that they will learn from recordings the way we did? Because I was the same way. I mean, I learned to play the drums playing with my dad's record collection. By the time I had a lesson, I would tell people I've already studied with all the greats, It was the LPs, right? But
did you play with other musicians too?
I didn't. I played with records for about 2 or 3 years before I ever played with anybody. Right. And because there was nobody to play with at the time, I lived in a little town in Colorado, just 500, 600 people, and there really weren't clubs or there weren't bands. There was just the school band.
There were musicians there?
And I played trumpet in the school band, but I didn't play the drum set, and except at home. And then when we moved to Texas, I kept playing in my room at home with records. In the junior year in high school is when the drummer left that had been playing in the jazz band, and then I auditioned and got that gig. But that was when I first played with people. Up to that point, it was all records, But I started later than you. The drums for me came around 12, 13 is when I probably started messing around with them. And you were working.
I didn't play with, I was playing.
You were playing gigs by then, right?
I was accompanying singers. My grandmother was a singer, so I learned how to accompany people. And there's an art to accompanying.
Oh gosh, yeah.
A lot of people, they want to lead you, and what happens with a singer, you just have to accompany them. You play just after they do, give them support.
Mm-hmm.
And not a pale moon that excites me, that it dreams and delight me. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you.
That's such an art, just being a great accompanist.
It was like that sort of thing. And then when I got into junior high school, I accompanied the chorus, so it was like, I'm always working with singers. And at that point, it became much more singers, and toward the end of junior high, I guess I was like 8th, 9th grade. That's when I met, there was 2 guys I met. One of them was, did you know, Jim Vaughn?
Okay, yeah, the drummer, yeah.
And Kirby Stewart, and they had heard about me, and they were working on, Dave Brubeck had just come out.
Yeah, Take 5.
52, whatever that was.
59, that record came out in 59 because I was born. I was born the year that record came out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great year for records. So they had
formed a band, and I don't know what happened, but it was Kirby on bass and Jim on drums and a guy named Don Dixon that was playing saxophone and clarinet. So we were doing some Benny Goodman kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to sit down with the album. I could transcribe everything on it, even the.
What was that? Unsquare Dance or what was that? Yeah.
Unsquare Dance.
Remember Captain Kangaroo had the white gloves doing that. Just a pair of white gloves on a black background, clapping that whole tune. Yeah.
That was, I learned. Which I still play.
Blue Rondalla
I was
Turk.
14. And I wasn't even in high school yet, but I didn't know the names of chords. I knew my ear could go to whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then when I got into high school, I did the same thing. I accompanied the chorus, and we had this one teacher. My reading was really good. I had a weekly lesson with for classical piano, but I also wanted to play baseball. you know. So I wanted to get out, just have fun and stuff. But what I would do, I would wait till like the day before the lesson, and I'd sit down and open the book. Okay, and then I, learn what is. Okay, I got it. And I'd show up for the lesson, and the teacher would be, "Oh, so you practice an hour a day?" "Oh yeah, yeah." And I pulled it off, because I was fast, But and my reading was pretty good. But when I got into high school, we had this one teacher named Lois Ruth Mitchell, and she was 2 years before retirement. She was 64 years old. She had a little bun on her head and a little pencil that was stuck in there and everything, And and every week or every couple of weeks, she would bring in something else to sight read, and it would be choral. Sometimes there would be piano parts, but most of the time it was just soprano, alto, which are all treble, tenor, which is written up an octave as treble clef, and then bass. And I have to sit there and sight read all these four parts, whatever it was, And then sometimes it would be like, just ridiculous tunes, And so she'd get up, and then she'd go sit down at the piano and she'd, okay, go. And she'd start the chorus, and it's like, she would sight read this thing. It was like, damn. Wow. So I really had to start working on that. But I asked her at her retirement dinner, which I was in the 11th grade, and I said, so how did you sight read really good. She said, well, I wouldn't bring anything in unless I played for it for 2 weeks. So you weren't sight reading? No, but it worked, didn't it? I'm like, damn. So it's one of those, okay, I get it. But it got my reading up, a lot. But, I didn't really play jazz. I liked Ray Charles, and I liked the blues, But it was,
that West Coast jazz, though, that was a big deal when that started to land, wasn't it? Was Brubeck kind of the front end of the West Coast jazz sound, or did it start a little earlier?
I'm not really sure, because I'm in Texas, so I'm just I knew stride piano. We had a guy, my folks used to go over to the Elks Club. They were Southern Baptists, and they taught in Sunday school every Sunday, but they weren't supposed to drink, dance, or smoke. My dad didn't smoke, but they would go out to the Elks Club every Saturday night and then come in for Sunday school on Sunday morning. But when they went over to the Elks Club, there was in the bar, they had a clarinet player, this guy Cody Sandifer on drums, and he would play basically brushes and kick. And then this guy, Swan Cummings, it would play like Teddy Wilson would with Benny Goodman Trio. Mm-hmm. So he taught me how to play the stride piano. Because they didn't have a bass player.
Oh, yeah, okay. Covering both parts,
I'm 12, 13 years old learning that stuff. So that was another style. I was just fascinated by all that stuff.
And this is only 12 and 13 at this point.
Yeah, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then I got into a band where instead of doing, and Beatles came out and everybody was doing like Rolling Stones, the Beatles, British Invasion stuff. We did James Brown and Ray Charles,
Oh yeah,
that kind of stuff.
I know how much of a Ray guy you are.
Oh yeah, I love it.
You have in your notes read, and I'm looking at the kind of the chapters, the book chapters here. In the junior and high school section in the Fort Worth years, I also see George Carlin, King Curtis, Wolfman Jack mentioned in there. What's going on with those elements?
Well, my dad was an insurance agent, right? And he had it was Turner Young Company, and they were on Lancaster, and the next building over, they showed a driveway. KXOL Radio, George Carlin was a disc jockey after he got out of the Air Force. And so him and Jack Burns, and they did a dual show on it, but he was also going over to Dallas and doing comedy shows. So let's see, Fletcher. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was the station manager, but they gave him the ultimatum. Look, you can either be a comic or you can be a DJ, but you got to make up your mind. So
one or the other.
But I met him when I was about 10 years old. you know, because he was over there, and my sister was crazy about him, you know, because he liked patting her on the head and stuff. You know? So
Why
that
could,
was what that
why
was.
couldn't you be both? Why couldn't you be a comic and a DJ?
No, no, you gotta have loyalty, you know. Uh, but the Wolfman Jack, um, when I was in high school, there was a guy Freddie Cisneros and Jimmy Don Smith, and these guys they started a band, and Freddie was much into BB King and Muddy Waters and that kind of stuff. Wolfman Jack had a radio show that was across the border in Mexico, XERF, and Acuna, Coahuila, Mexico, 500,000 watts, and you can get it all the way to Chicago. And he broadcast like midnight to 6 in the morning. So that's our introduction to blues. You know, you'd listen to that thing, you know, you have your little transistor radio, you know, so nobody could hear. So that was one. And then there was a radio show over in Dallas that was the old Jim Lowell and the Blues Caravan Show. He'd be 10 to 12 or 11 to 1 or something like that. But he didn't do like the traditional blues. He did more Jimmy Witherspoon and Dinah Washington and that sort of thing, you know, which was really cool. It was a different,
Yeah.
you know, Charles Brown, and, you know, kind of the jazzy blues stuff.
What do you think, by the way, you know, I mean, so much of what you're describing and so much of the learning that went on for young players through so many years there with radio, you know, records and radio was a big part of it too, exposure to a lot of different types of music, sometimes within a single station or certainly across stations.
Right.
It's so different now. How do you look at what's happened to radio in terms of how much it's diminished people's ability to be exposed to a variety of music?
Well, a lot of it was back then. You know, you would have maybe Sam Cooke song, and then Elvis Presley song, and then I mean, once the Beatles came in, it kind of changed the formats a little bit. But back then, you know, you'd have Vic Damone, and
right.
Frank Sinatra, you know, just all these things just kind of, so you were exposed to a lot of different music. But then again,
Bobby Darin,
yeah, Bobby Darin, yeah.
all those people.
Well, we had Roger Miller because Roger Miller was from Fort Worth.
Trailers.
You know, Dang Me.
Trailers for Sailor Rent, baby.
He
He didn't know he was from Fort Worth. My God, half of the music world is from Fort Worth, it seems, and then half of the acting world.
It was a very interesting thing, you know, because it was, and this is what Austin, when I moved here, it reminded me of Fort Worth because there were so many cross-pollinizations of music, you know, and in Fort Worth, I talked to Steve Bruton about it a lot, you know, because he grew up in Fort Worth as well. And he said, where we learned to play was playing those gigs in the north side of Fort Worth out by the stockyards, where it would be a country gig, but it was 5 hours long. So you had to play everything you knew, and then you would make up stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
And you had to take other genres and make them country just to cover the 5 hours worth of playing.
Exactly, and then play something that you like, you know. And of course, you know, the Western swing, you know, that's all straight edge jazz anyway, you know. So
yeah, so much cross pollination. Yeah.
You know, it's like Count Basie and stuff. You know, in fact, Bob Wills at one point he had a whole horn section. You know, the only thing is that he had 3 fiddles up front, but it was basically a swing band. You know?
Hey, there's so much we want to talk about and so much to cover, but I know people love hearing some stuff too. So every once in a while we should drop something in, and you've got so much on YouTube. So one of the things we want to do is tell people about your YouTube channel, which is I can show it.
I don't even know how to get to it, so I just go to my website.
Well, if you go
redyoung.com.
Okay, yeah. We've got redyoung.com on the screen, so go there to find out about all things Red.
Once you go to Red Young, then you press the YouTube. There's a little button up there, YouTube and Facebook. You know, you go to either one. There's shows on each one. Right,
and this is Red Young's Facebook page right here that we're looking at. It's a very, very cool Facebook page. And here you can see his little banner if I drag it down here. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Nice picture. And lots of, you go right up here, you hit the subscribe button. You can see that I'm subscribed, and I'm now asking for alerts, so I'll get them from now on. And
that's good. Thank you, Scott.
You bet. And there's a lot of videos here. What should we roll right now, Red? What should we play?
Well, let me see. I'm trying to think chronologically. Let's see. The first people I played with, actually, I did a bunch of recording in the '70s with like Freddie Fender and Kinky Friedman and Noel Redding.
We've got to show one of these with young Red with all the hair. We got to show them.
Okay. Well, let's put the one with after Sonny and Cher, I thought about moving because I was still living in Fort Worth and I wanted to move to LA. I'd seen Dean Parks. I said, if you know anybody who's looking for a keyboard player, let me know. So I got a call about 2 weeks later from Glenn Johns, who had, he's a great engineer, recorded everything from the Who to the Eagles to, God, you name it. He was like he recorded the last album with the Beatles, Let It Be.
Wow.
And so, he was a real known guy, but he gave me this call, and, hey, mate, you come highly recommended from Dean Parks. And we have this lady, Joan Armatrading, and we've auditioned 20 keyboard players in LA. And none of them had fit the bill. So we'd like to fly you out, and audition for the band. I said, oh, great. Okay, so what's her Joan Armatrading. So I went to records, so I couldn't remember her name. So I said, Joan Arbitrator, you got any albums by her? And he said, no, Joan Arbitrating. And he gave me two albums. So what I did is I took the albums, I transcribed everything off the albums. I had my charts ready. I'm ready to go. I go over to A&M Studios. They flew me out there and I stayed in the motel. And went over and they said, okay, we're going to do songs from the new unreleased album. Okay. So play the song. The first song was Show Some Emotion. So put that one on there.
All right.
Now, think about, there's no charts. I have to use my ear and transcribe this thing.
Oh, man. And you're how old here? How old are you?
Oh, I was like, at that time, probably 27, 28.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And you got red hair too, right?
Yeah.
So you're seeing evidence.
It took a little bit to get to it.
You're seeing evidence of where the red comes from.
Force, I said, I'm not shaving or cutting my hair again, ever.
Okay, so Joan
didn't for 7 years.
We're going to play some Joan Armatrading, or as Red used to call her, Arbitrator. And and who else is in this recording? I'm seeing down here. It's like Rick Hirsch.
Ricky Hirsch is on it, and Ricky. The way I met him, I was working with Sonny and Cher. Cher was married to Greg Allman, and Ricky was one of the founders of Wet Willie. And then he started working with Greg. So Greg moved the whole band out to L.A. So I met him during that time. And then I got him on Joan's band, in 1979. Mm. And then Bill Bodine, who's a bass player. Art Rodriguez played drums. And Joan liked to change bands every year, so that's how I met everybody in LA. Vinny Caliuta calls me up. Hey, listen, man, I need a gig. I just got here. I said, well, it's not up to me. It's up to Joe. So then he joined Frank Zappa.
This says Art Rodriguez is playing drums on this cut. This is cool.
Yeah, Art, and then Art played with us for this tour, this particular song. We did a 6-week tour of Europe, and the opening band was George Duke.
Oh, wow.
With Sheila E. on percussion.
Oh, my gosh.
And Ricky Lawson on drums.
Okay, so here's Joan Armatrading and with a young Red Young.
Yeah.
Let me get it turned up here. Let's go.
Show some emotion. Put expression in your eyes. Light up if you're feeling happy. But if it's bad, then let those tears roll down.
was.
Some people live
Yep.
in love, but all they got's a photo. How can they get it? Too scared to open the mouth and dance. I said, show some emotion, put expression in your eyes. Light up if you're feeling happy. But if it's bad, then let those tears roll down. Come on, try. Come on, try.
A lot of price on that. In Fort Worth.
Lots of please when you got a bad ball. Light up if you're feeling happy. But if it's bad, then let those tears roll down.
It's a badass band, Red. Damn.
Oh yeah, I know. I put it together.
There he is. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Red.
Yeah, baby.
I said, show some emotion, put expression in your eyes. Light up if you're feeling happy, but if it's bad, then let those tears roll down. Come on, try. Come on, try. Come on, try. Lots of things when you get a bad ball. Light up if you're feeling happy, but if it's bad, then let those tears roll down. Light up if you're feeling happy, but if it's bad, then let those tears roll down. If it's bad, then let those tears roll down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, that's cool.
You know, what happened with that band is like we had done an album. I worked with Dylan for 3 years. The second year, I flew to London. We did a month in Olympic Studios that, you know, the Stones and all the other Beatles recorded in. And during the middle of that, we did a gig, and we flew the touring band over from the United States. It was Bob Dylan's first gig in Europe or in England since he got booed off the stage in 1966 with the band.
Wow.
And so it was a festival. There's a thing called the Picnic, and it was Dylan, Eric Clapton, Joan Armatrading, and like 3 other bands, Graham Parker and the Rumor. But Dylan wanted Joan to open for him, so we went right in between Clapton and Dylan. And I go on stage. Harvey Goldsmith was the promoter. He'd sold 150,000 tickets, but they broke the gates, and so there was like 250,000 people there.
Wow.
And I went on stage, man. I thought, my first thought was, I got to play loud.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
But But when we did the album, it was with a British band, and 2 weeks before we were supposed to do this major tour of Europe with Joan, it was going to be a 6-week tour. Uh, the band said, well, the bass player and the drummers, Henry Spinetti and Dave Marquis, were working with one of Glenn's bands, and the guitar player was playing with David Essex, and so they just said, sorry, we can't do it. So Joan called me up and said, can you put a band together for me? Sure.
Wow.
So that's who I got. Man. Bill Bodine, I'd already been playing with him. Ricky Hirsch, I knew from sessions around L.A. And then Lon Price, I'd met him the same time that I met Kirby Stewart and Jim Vaughn.
Lon's badass, man, and
Yeah,
he
was the guy that was playing. He was playing flute down at the Cellar in Fort Worth the night that the security guards from JFK, JFK spoke in Fort Worth the morning, November 22nd morning, and then he flew over to Dallas.
Oh my
So
God.
the security guards, the Secret Service guys went over to the Cellar and they got little ripped, So they may have been a little bit foggy, when they were guarding the car. I don't think that was the reason, but
that's heavy. That's heavy
yeah.
to
But
think
Lon
about.
was the guy that was playing.
Lon, he's got such a badass look, man. It's like a timeless hip sax player look,
Yeah.
And he looks like he could. That's from what year was that recording
Oh,
that
that's
we just watched?
79. And he went. Lon
79,
was
yeah.
in the same section in North Texas as Lou Marini and Tom Malone and all those guys, man. It was like 1966, 67.
God, what a great time. Great
Yeah,
bands.
it was. That school at that time, Leon Breeden leading it was just like, there were some monsters that came out of there.
Did you go to NTSU? What was your, how did that happen? What happened there with you?
Well, what happened with me is I wanted to go up there and study jazz. I've been playing jazz, and I've been transcribing Oscar Peterson, Art Tatum, Bill Evans. I knew the notes. I didn't know the names of the chords. And I wanted to go up there and study jazz. And they said, well, you don't have any experience. And I said, well, that's why I want to come up there. Well, we're going to put you in classical. And I said, oh, shit. So I went.
What do you mean you don't have any experience? You're a freshman, for God's sake.
I know. But that's the way the school was. So they put me in a classical pianist, and the guy wanted me to do Mozart and Bach and shit. And I'd studied that when I was like 9 years old. So I said, listen, there's one piece that I always wanted to learn: the Scherzo in B flat minor by Chopin. I've been playing heavy Chopin since I was like 12, or 11. And the guy said, well, you can't study that until at least your junior year. So I went out over to Pender's Music, bought the sheet music. And I came back next week. I said, listen, I'm having a little trouble with this piece. Can you help me with it? Yeah, I said, yeah, sure.
And what'd they say?
Said, okay, we'll study that. So I lasted about 9 weeks, and I was already working with a band 6 nights a week down at Fort Worth and driving up 377 6 nights a week. And the first thing that left was the 8 o'clock English class. And the next thing, and then because my last name was Y, and you had to have a physical education class, and you had to run for physical education, the only thing that was left, weightlifting and wrestling. So I took the weightlifting, and then the wrestling, I said, I'm sorry, I've got to go. So I quit. Because I realized it's like all the stuff that I'd learned up to that point, I couldn't assimilate.
It wasn't designed for somebody that was already living life the way you were living and playing the way you were playing. And
I already knew what I was going to do. And then I got a call my dad got a call from Ken Foley, who's the head of the musicians union in Fort Worth. And he said, Clyde McCoy needs a piano player. Clyde McCoy was a guy that had a hit in 1927 with a song called Sugar Blues. It was a wah-wah trumpet. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, and they did a lot of Dixieland stuff. So I joined him, worked with him for about a year. We went all over the country driving. Um, and I was 18. We played in New York for 3 weeks, Longchamp's restaurant, and right around the corner, Gene Krupa. So I watched Gene Krupa. The clarinet player was friends with Saul Yagid, who had taught Steve Allen how to play the clarinet for the Benny Goodman story. And so we go over there and sit in with him, and it was the same thing. It was piano, drums, Saul on clarinet, and Ray Nance was playing fiddle and cornet. So it's like, cool. And then we went to Atlantic City. We alternated with the Supremes for 6 weeks. And it's all old white guys playing Dixieland, and the old young black audience out there. And I thought, man, this is not going to go up. And the young kids really dug it. We were playing. All that stuff. And all that stuff. So I learned a lot of Dixieland, and then came back from that, and then the draft caught up with me, because it was 1968.
Okay.
So if you were 18 and physically fit, you either had to be drafted or you joined one of the branches of the service. And I auditioned for the Army band. I auditioned for the Air Force band. And so I spent 4 years in the Air Force band, and it was like, I hate this thing. Get me out of here.
Did you travel all over the place?
We went Wichita Falls for about a year. Went to Ramstein, Germany for a year, and then Wichita, Massachusetts for 2 years. And when I was in Massachusetts, I go down to New York once a month and watch like Thad Jones, Mel Lewis.
Yeah.
That was every month. Well, one Monday night a month.
That was a
And I
great
did one way
posting,
in
right?
and one way out of New York, and then they had a construction on that one way out. I got stuck there for 2 hours trying to find out how I could get out of New York.
When you were in Germany, when did you hear some jazz in Europe when you were over in Germany?
Well, actually, back then, that was 1968, 69, so it was like their idea of jazz was oompa kind of stuff, There was a guy named Albert Mangelsdorf.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Trombone player.
Trombone player. So he was big, but most everybody just did that. That was before ECM and all that stuff.
Okay, that came a little later.
The jazz was not really prevalent. Oscar Peterson had gone over to Denmark, and done some albums over there, and he was starting to use some Scandinavian players. But Germany still wasn't. They were more technical, than anything else. But then when ECM hit, it was all Munich based and stuff.
Oh, and the recording, an amazing recording approach that label fostered, right? And that Oscar Peterson stuff, I thought that was Germany, that BASF label or whatever, the tape company, actually, there's a label. But that was in Denmark, that wasn't in Germany?
He did an album at Live from the Tivoli Gardens, which was in Denmark. And he had, I think,
Niels Henning Orsted Pedersen.
Yeah, that guy.
Good grief. The first time I heard him play bass, acoustic bass, he was like Jocko on an acoustic bass, right?
It's like it was interesting because at that time, Europeans didn't grow up with that culture that we did. It was basically blues bass, and it's like, it's more field than anything else. And so they could copy it, but they couldn't really feel what to do with it, So, but they started getting together.
How many gigs do you think? I've got to know. I've got to ask you this. Just thinking about just the story you've told all the way up to this point, and God, you're barely in your 20s, maybe approaching 30. And then you think about you've played for another 40 years.
Right.
How many gigs? Do you have any concept of how many gigs you've played? Any concept?
Well, you could mathematically figure it out because I was always doing, in a month, probably at least 15 gigs. So how many months between then and now?
Okay, let's get the calculator.
I done, here, I was doing every Wednesday night. I do every Tuesday night with Ephraim and Brandon, and then up to Fort Worth, and then whatever, and then touring, so.
So
But
you functionally 60. How old are you now, Red?
72.
So
Oh,
you've
you're
been
getting your calculator
Yeah,
out?
yeah. So that is that's at least 11,000 gigs.
Yeah, I'm sure. I
That's
remember them
cool.
too.
Now, so people listen. You remember them. So
Well,
when
it's interesting because my memory, I can remember just about every song I learned or ever played. The lyrics and everything.
wow,
I
that's
can't I
cool.
can't remember names. I can't remember numbers. But I remember
That's
that.
you can remember the lyrics. That's amazing because
Right.
I can't even remember the lyrics within a song. If I'm supposed to repeat them in a chorus, they're already gone by the time I get back to the chorus. I don't know
Yeah,
what
but you
that's all
can make
about.
them up, right?
You could try.
So let's see. That's the way that works.
Right.
Jimmy Reed couldn't remember either.
Were you singing? Were you singing early on in your gigging experience too, or did that come
Well,
later?
I mean, I sang in church choirs and stuff, and then I accompanied the chorus. Because I had perfect pitch. I remember there was one thing we did with us. It was all city chorus and all city orchestra, and we did an a cappella song. So we went out there, and I just hummed. Everybody knew the pitch. Okay. Then we sang this a cappella thing, and the orchestra came in. It was perfectly in tune. So, I was that sort of thing, and I could sing odd harmonies. And then just about everybody I worked with, I'd sing, background harmonies, or I wrote choral arrangements early on because it was just, you
Yeah.
so I tried to do horn arrangements. That was a good thing about the Air Force band, because it was like it was a 45-piece band. We did concerts. Oh, and another thing. Okay, I played piano in the dance band. I played piano in a small ensemble that was Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears based. So I did all the horn arrangements for that. Two trumpets, two saxes, two trombones. And the young lieutenant wanted to be the singer, you know. So he took over that job. But in the
Was he any
concert
good?
band,
Was he any good?
huh?
Was he any good?
Well, he got me over to Germany. you know. So, I told him he was good.
Yeah, right.
No, he was good. Uh, for military. But in the concert band, I had to be in the percussion section, because there's no piano and stuff. So I could tune the piano. Tune the timpani, So I had perfect pitch. So I could do that, but I had a terrible roll, a single stroke roll. It'd be So they said, "Don't worry, we're not going to play anything difficult rolls." The first tune we did. Do you know that piece, Finlandia?
Yeah.
You
You're moving all the
did
way
that
through
one.
that one, right?
We did Candide, and then in the marching band, they wanted me to use the bass drum. I said, I don't want to do that. So I learned snare drum. So
Okay.
I learned rudiments on that. This guy told me, well, you're just controlling the bounce. So, paradiddle, and all that kind of stuff. Paradiddle, diddle, ratamatachi,
Yeah.
And those things I didn't know were going to come in handy when I started playing organ.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah. And
Right.
when did that? And so when did you start getting into
I
the
was in the Air
B3?
Force age 18 to 22.
Okay.
And I got out and I turned 23.
And then the B3 came when into your experience?
Well, the B3, actually, what happened when I went up to, when they deactivated the band in Germany, they said, where do you want to go? I said, California first, Texas second. So they sent me to Massachusetts. And I got up there, and there weren't any piano players, there weren't any bass players. Everybody's playing Hammond organ. Like Jack McDuff was living down in Hartford, and there was all these amazing organ players. So I had to learn how to play it. And then I started playing with a drummer. Buddy Rich was doing that big band, the Channel One Suite and West Side
Right.
Story and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there was a drummer that I started working with that knew all the Buddy Rich stuff. So it became the Parker, just Jimmy Parker was his name. So it became the Parker Young Small Band. And we do all of those things, just organ and drums.
Wow. So you do
Yeah.
like the buddy arrangements with,
Yeah, the whole
yeah,
thing, you know.
yeah.
And it was like, I mean, I
That's
don't remember
cool.
any of that stuff right now, but it was just, we'd learn it and I'd pull it off, you know.
Wow.
And then I started working with another drummer that had worked with Junior Walker. Oh, actually, I bought the B3 that was down at the Elephant Room. I
Okay.
bought that in 1971 in Massachusetts. I borrowed $2,900 from my dad, and I paid him back in 6 months. I was still in the Air Force, but I was working 6 nights
$2,900.
a week.
That's a lot of money back then, man.
Yeah, but I paid it off in 6 months because I'm playing. You know, I'm getting
Yeah.
military money, and I'm, you know,
Yeah.
working 6 nights a week.
A slice
one
of
of the
those,
tunes we
a
did with
slice of
that-
those 11,000 gigs, you know.
that's it. You know, and then we did. At that time, Shaft had just come out, so we did theme from Shaft. You know, with all the parts. So I got, you know, my pedals are going put it up, put it up, put it up. You know, I'm playing all the parts on the thing. It's just a drum. One night we played in the club, and I had way too much to drink, and so the last song they decided to do that. The drummer starts that, you know, and they go, boom, boom. And I couldn't go any further.
So
you
much
know.
for the bass line and Shaft.
Yeah.
So Shaft became a ballad. Yeah.
Yeah, I said, okay, yeah, okay, let's don't do that one last.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the next thing I see in the Red Book is
Yeah.
is Springfield 72, 74 in that period.
Yeah, that was that period where, you know, I had the organ and I started working the organ a lot. And a buddy of mine from that I went to high school with wound up coming up to Pound Ridge, New York. His friends from Houston. I mean, I was in high school. I was in the band with Jimmy Don Smith, Freddie Cisneros. Jimmy Don, after high school, he wound up going down to Houston and met, you know, all the Billy Gibbons and Terry Wilson, Tony Braunagel, those guys. And then, so we kept in touch, but he wound up going down to Houston and hanging out with those guys. They started working with Johnny Nash, that I can see clearly, you know.
Okay,
And
yeah.
the keyboard player was a guy named Rabbit, John Bundrick, who replaced me in the band in '67 when I joined the Air Force. Jimmy came up to Springfield, to Pound Ridge, New York with those guys. Then he came over to Springfield for a couple of years. Then he got an offer about 2 years later to put together a band to back up Lloyd Price. You know, it did Stagger Lee and Personality and all that stuff.
Okay.
So that was 1974, but he wanted to do it down in Houston. So I wound up going down to Houston with him. We all lived in a house over on Montrose. And we rehearsed for like 2 months. We were writing songs. What Lloyd wanted to do is put together a band that was like the Allman Brothers. They wrote their own music that he could finance and that he would use his name to get the gigs. And then we would record our own material, and he'd finance that, and then we'd become successful, and he'd become. Well, at that same time, he was involved, and the management company also. He was friend. Well, he was from Philadelphia, so he was friends with like Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali and all those guys.
Okay.
So when we started playing,
This is mid 70s you're talking about. 70.
yeah, this is 74.
Okay.
And so that's when I moved down to Houston first. We went on the road. We played DC. We played Philadelphia. When we played in Philadelphia, we had a rehearsal in the afternoon at this place called Mr. Mann's, which is upstairs. And I was playing organ and Rhodes. Had a Rhodes sitting on top of the organ. And Lloyd said, "Listen, I've got a friend of mine. I want you to come over and meet him." You know. And we go over to this booth, and it's Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
And he said, "Pleased to meet you." I said, "No, man, I'm pleased to meet you, my hero."
Oh man, this is in the heart of those years of
Well,
of
what happened,
Ali's-
what I didn't know, Lloyd seemed very distracted. We only did maybe 3 or 4 weeks on the road. The last gig we did was in December in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the movie that came out, was it When We Were Kings? It was Ali's first fight when he couldn't get a fight here in the U.S.
Okay.
And Lloyd actually was the one that put together the concert in Zaire for the Rumble in the Jungle.
Wow.
So it was James Brown, Lloyd Price was on it. He was the one that was the coordinator, Hugh Masekela and all that stuff. It was the fundraiser for that fight.
Mm.
So I knew that Lloyd was distracted, but holy moly.
Man.
So I was like, wait a minute.
Man.
So, I mean, that's when the thing started dawning on me is, man, I need to stick with this, because it's like, there's just,
What was
you never
Ali?
know where those.
What was that like being around Ali even for a moment? What was his aura
just,
like?
Just shaking his hand, man. It was just like, well, because here I didn't want to go in the Air Force. I didn't want to go in the military. I was against the Vietnam War, like
Right.
everybody else. They wouldn't let me off base and protest. And here's Ali saying, you know what? I'm giving up my title because I don't want to be fighting these people over there. So he was a hero to all of us.
Yeah.
So when I met him, it was just like, man, you did what I wanted to do, but it wouldn't make any difference if I did anything. I had guys that I knew went to Canada, guys that,
Mm-hmm.
got bone spurs,
Right. Yeah, he was a hero.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But he was just soft spoken. You could just feel that energy in his hand, It's like my buddy Ricky Hirsch, that played on the Joan Armour Trading thing. Wet Willie was the second band that was signed to Capricorn Records. And they did a lot of shows with the Allman Brothers because the Allman Brothers were the first ones that signed. And I was a big fan of the Allman Brothers. So I asked him one time, I said, so what was it like, being around Dwayne? Dwayne Allman was such a power and innovative. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that whole band, they were listening to Coltrane and, getting high and just playing jazz, but it was blues, power. I said, so what was it like around him? He said, there was an energy around him. He said, you'd shake his hand, you'd come off and you'd be buzzing for hours.
Wow.
That's why it didn't last long. It's just like some people are like that.
They burn real bright for a short time.
They're really special.
Wow.
So yeah.
So that's Houston, and I know then you got back in Fort Worth because I remember you talking about the Ham Brothers. And,
right.
And for those who don't know, I know more about Warren than I do the others. Well, Warren, you'll see him now playing with Toto or playing with Ringo Starr's, all-star thing. What was your experience with the Ham Brothers?
Well, it was the most creative group I had ever worked with. Because when I got into it, I had moved back to Fort Worth and I needed a gig, so I got a solo piano gig, but not me. Piano, organ, guitar. So I'm playing all the instruments and everything, but I can only do that for about 6 months out of the year, And then the other 6 months I'd worked with the Ham Brothers, and they played the Hop in Fort Worth. But when we first started it was Bill, and Bill's a phenomenal guitar player. He taught he and Eric Johnson would get together, and the Electromagnets would come up to Fort Worth.
Wow.
So that's where I met Steve Barber. And he's playing his Wurlitzer with a Mini Moog.
Yeah.
And I had my B3 with the Rhodes on top of it, and I'm playing pedals, and Daryl Norris on drums, and Warren playing flute, harmonica, saxophone, and singing.
Wow.
And we were doing, compared to what, we do a lot of originals. We do Wes Montgomery stuff. We do all kinds of just creative stuff and wrote songs. And that was this section we'd go down to Houston and record. And there was one song that Warren and I wrote. When we went down to Houston, we'd do, a Freddie Fender album in a day, right? And then we'd have like 4 extra hours, So, and Huey Moe, the producer, was a guy from South Louisiana. He was like real, he's a kid. Hey, it's cool, brother. Play a good one, brother. He's one of these kind of guys. So anyway, this one tune, it was funky, but the middle section would go into 7. You know, and Huey'd be Huey's in the control room, and the engineer said Huey's standing there, and he's patting his foot. You know, he's listening to the thing. And he says, "Man, these cats are really good because they all fuck up together."
They're all dropping the beat at the same time.
Yeah, man, cool. These guys are really good. But we recorded a bunch of stuff. But you know, working with Bill and Warren, there was a tension between them, you know, because they're brothers.
Mm.
And they had a third brother, Norman. But sometimes they would get into fist fights, right? We did a show, and you know, Warren called out a song, and Bill had started into something else. You know? But
so you never knew what was going to break out on stage, huh?
No, you never knew. And like I'm kind of the calming force in there. There was the drummer Daryl Norris. He was a phenomenal drummer. He worked with Delbert back in the '60s, you know, but he's just a great. It worked with Johnny Netzinger, him and Curly Benton. But Daryl knew that Bill would play faster when he was mad. And the thing that made him madder than anything else was the tempo speeding up. So we did this radio show.
You mean if the tempo sped up, he would get mad and then he would actually speed it up some more?
So Daryl is sitting right next to me, and I'm looking at Daryl, and I'm looking at Bill over his shoulder, and Daryl's looking at me and just grinning and just inching that tempo up just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. And you look at Bill over there, and his glasses are fogging up. All these notes, you know, insane. Yeah.
That's funny.
We recorded all that stuff. That was a tune called AC/DC.
Mm.
And Electric Ballroom was going at that time over in Dallas, so they would ask us to open for different people. We opened for Brian Auger, and we were also doing a lot of Chick Corea and Brian Auger songs at the time, and Little Feat. So when we opened for Brian Auger, we do the Chick Corea songs, and when we opened for Chick Corea, we do the Brian Auger songs. But it was a fun. And then Bill also, he was a guitar player with Cher. You know, so.
Is that how you connected with? That's how you got gig with Sonny and Cher?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, before we go into some more of that, I want to ask you, just kind of pulling back and thinking about again all of this culture and community and lifestyle and opportunity around music, all of the bands playing, all of the places that bands could play. You know, we didn't have the internet, right? So if you wanted to have that kind of experience of live music or just community, you know, that's why going to clubs, hearing bands, all that stuff was so important. Certainly during the pandemic, we're just waiting for the world to become sane enough again that we can all go out and feel safe going out and being together. But that aside, how concerned are you about the lack of that part of what was the kind of the anchor element of the music experience and community and culture? The fact that seems to be so under threat by things like virtual entertainment and all that now. Or do you feel like, everybody's just going to adapt? I just don't know if virtual performance is ever going to be able to reach people the way in-person stuff does.
No, I mean, virtual performances won't. But, you know, once we get this pandemic over and we can actually get together, you know, people can go out and listen to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, one reason I moved to Austin in 2002, because I wanted to play more Hammond organ, and there were less and less places in LA to play. In fact, the last year and a half, the only gig I had on Hammond was 20 miles from the house in Long Beach at the Blue Cafe. And it was $50, bring the organ, play 5 to 7, right?
$50, bring the organ, play 2 hours, drive 20 miles, which could have taken you a half a day.
But I wanted to do it, you know. I mean,
right.
Sometimes you have to have
It's
I
about
mean,
more than the money. Yeah, it's about
yeah, I mean, the
the
whole thing.
life.
Why do we play music? It gets back to that.
Yeah,
We
right.
play music because we love it. We love the sound of the instrument or the whatever that's inside of it comes out in the music. It comes out. You with your sticks, brushes, or how it all fits together.
Hmm.
And that's that it's a conversation. And what well, even when I was working with Eric Burden, we'd have some bands open for us, and they'd be watching us. Uh, me and Billy Watts, guitar, keyboards, bass, Terry Wilson on bass, or Tony Bronigal on drums, or Brandon, or whatever, and they'd be watching us. And you'd have one guy that's in the opening band. One guy plays rhythm guitar, the other plays lead guitar, and it's like, how are you guys doing that? We just listen to each other. It's a conversation. So a lot of them were getting inspired just watching what we were doing, and we get inspired watching what we're doing. So
Sure.
that'll be back. That'll be back. But
I
that's the way you have to learn.
Yeah, maybe when we get this under control, this the health thing, maybe
Yeah, like I say,
maybe this is going to create kind of a renaissance of people realizing just how much they miss
right.
this, and there'll be a flood back to the opportunity to be together. I hope it results in that.
Well, then again, it's like some of the things that have happened since the computer came in, and sequencers, and drum machines,
Mhm.
and sampling and stuff. There's a drummer that I work with in LA quite often, a guy named Raymond Pounds. I don't know if you know him.
I don't think so.
Raymond was the drummer with Stevie Wonder for like 7 years. He
Wow.
had Contusion and Sir Duke and all that stuff.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's great
Yeah.
stuff.
So and Stevie was the best man at his wedding. But I worked a gig in the '90s with him where we played. It was a tango place. So, we're playing.
And see this, what you're talking about here is real life for musicians. You go from Stevie Wonder to playing
Right.
at the tango place. That's all part of the continuity of keeping
and
the thing going, right?
what I learned early on is I could pick up styles, and I remembered what the styles were. And sometimes, and then, like I say, my dad's '78 collection, have Carmen Caballero, and that's the sort of stuff, or ragtime stuff. You need to have all the style. I've been asked sometimes to do a Scott Joplin concert. So I went out and bought some music, and I learned Scott Joplin and played the concert in it. And now I know those songs.
That's cool. Yeah.
I use it as an excuse. But working with Raymond, when all the sampling started coming in, he's sitting there listening to the radio, and he said, "Damn, that's me playing on that. They stole my little,
They sampled me.
And the big problem is that a lot of these people don't realize that it took 4 musicians to put that groove together. It wasn't just one person, and they just take it, so they don't know how to put the groove together, and they just take it and they say, "Oh, that's cool right there." So you're just kind of cutting and pasting. It's like if you want to be a novelist, you take some words out of a paper, newspaper, and just kind of run them together however you think they work.
Yeah.
It's not really saying anything.
I love the tools, and it's
Right.
I love working with
it's
Logic
a
and
tool.
samples. Yeah, and it's taught me things getting into the gear that I didn't understand before. But I understand but I know what you mean. There's like there is a responsibility to make sure, and I don't know whose responsibility is or how you execute the responsibility, but you would think that in some way there is a responsibility to, if you're going to be sampling and looping and doing all kinds of stuff, that whether it's giving credit to where credit is due, or just the individual using the technology, making sure that they they give enough respect to the source material that they learn how to do some of this themselves. I mean, right? There's a lot to think about in that that whole arena of repurposing content. But I do like
Some
what you
of it is
can do
knowing
with
the
it.
history,
There's some really cool things you can create using loops, and I've written some tunes during the pandemic and that I've stuck up, and some of it has to do. There may be cases where I'm going, I want a certain sound, and I've got to use this drum loop to make it happen. And the amount of time it would take me to figure out how to play and record and capture and process the sound to recreate that, it would be like, it might never have happened, because if I didn't hear the loop, I wouldn't have even come up with the tune, But I understand what you mean. There's a trade-off there,
Well,
because
it's like, you have to know the history,
Yeah.
some of it, how the whole thing works.
Yeah.
And I've seen,
that's truth.
I've seen some, I did an album with Jeff Porcaro one time, and
One of the greatest pop drummers ever. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But he would just sit there and he would create something. We did this album with Jerry Williams, and it was a long time. Jerry wrote some lyrics to Song from My Father. And it was about, 7-minute, 8-minute song. What he did is had Jeff go out in the studio and play a groove, and they put it on a 2-inch, quarter-inch tape, 2-track. And they took about 4 bars of that, spliced it together, held a mic stand, and put it on a 2-inch tape.
So they could loop it.
Of about 8 minutes of Jeff playing. And then we recorded the band to that. And then they had Jeff come out and play live, like he was, playing with the band right then. And this offended Jeff greatly. So the next day he didn't show up for the session. He sent in a Lynn drum machine.
He didn't like that they had looped him.
Well, he felt like they were questioning his sense of time. I mean, his tempo, Jeff's tempo was like spot on all the time.
Yeah.
But it was Jerry Williams, wrote "Giving Up Your Love,"
okay,
"Forever Man," a bunch of other tunes. But he wanted to have this thing so it's solid, and the drums didn't make any variance in what we were doing.
Oh, I see what you mean. He wanted him to play a groove and not vary the groove.
Right.
He wanted
it the groove, and then go out there and create what you want to.
And then after the people cut their other parts, then Jeff could come in and play what he wanted.
Right.
But Jeff didn't like that.
No.
He felt that was restricted.
Well,
it was unfamiliar, right? It was a different way of doing things,
Yeah, and it was right when Lynn drum had come out.
Yeah.
Nobody was using them yet, but Roger Lynn had given him one. Yeah.
And when you're king of the hill, you can, I guess you can question anything you want, right?
Well, Jeff was a character anyway.
Wow, he was one of those bright lights that left way too early.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll never forget some of the grooves that certainly influenced me and things that I wanted to put into learn and add to my repertoire. And especially playing anything pop rock like. But.
Well, where did you learn your stuff? I mean, who were your influences?
Well, like we said, the first records I played with were Brubeck, Joe Morello, and some of the early Miles stuff, and Philly Joe Jones, and then a lot of big bands. My dad had a lot of big band records, so. Jake Hanna, and when he was playing with Woody Herman, that really influenced me. Or
a session with him one time too.
You played with Jake Hanna? Oh my God, what was that like?
Cool. Well, it was a friend of mine that he had the Honda account, so he had Roger Newman write the charts, and it was like the Woody Herman, the Thundering Herd or whatever.
Yeah,
and it was this Honda driving down a winding road like this, bang, we're just playing like, holy shit, man! That's how close I got to Woody Herman.
Wow!
But Jake was
that's
great,
cool.
Man. His cymbal patterns.
Jake, there's a 1963 Woody Herman record. I think it's just called 1963. Bill Chase is playing lead trumpet. You know that band, Sal Nistico, tenor,
You're right.
and Nat Pierce and Jake and Phil Wilson was
Hallelujah
in that
Time, was
band.
it?
Do what?
You know Hallelujah Time?
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that too.
Yeah, I do too. I keep trying to get the tenor players to do that.
Well, and sister, oh yeah, and the recording off that record, that I love that entire record. I played and played and played with that record. I mean, that was part of what taught me how to play big band, was listening to that record. But the recording of their version of Sister Sadie is just so ridiculous and driving. And Jake is the way he's playing time through that, and he's playing that cross stick. It's just like he's chopping wood, man, all the way through that tune to the end, you know. And it's fantastic. So anyway, those influenced me. And then as I got into the 70s and I was in high school, you know, and listening to the other big bands, Maynard and Peter Erskine, of course, influenced me, and Randy Jones, and you know, I started listening to Chick, and I started listening to all that stuff, and Blood, Sweat, and Tears in Chicago, and a lot of pop records, and so there was a wide range of players that really spoke to me. Steve Gadd, you know, everybody discovered him and went, holy cow, and it was around, you know, you and I meeting you years later when you moved to Austin. I've often thought back to my youth, and I thought, I wonder if, you know, we probably passed each other on the highway a few times, you know.
Oh, I'm sure.
Although you may have been in L.A. by the time that I was driving, because you went to L.A. late 70s, 77, 78?
76, I started going out there. Actually, the first time I went out there was 1975, I think.
Okay, so 76 through 78, I was at Amarillo High School, finishing up my high school. Wow. And just playing little gigs around the panhandle of Texas with a little society band called Tiffany Brass. And that's really when I first began to play out with people. Yeah. And you were in L.A., and of course, that's you mentioned Sonny and Cher and so many. And I know there's so much to cover, but one of the things I know people would love to hear about is your experience with Linda Ronstadt, and when that came about. That must have just been a top of the heap.
Well, it was after, you know, I'd done Sonny and Cher. I quit Cher. She wanted me to go to Las Vegas with her, and I played with Joan Armatrading because I liked that, more travel, and it was a band, you know.
Yeah. Probably more fun musically for you too. Yeah.
And then I did.
Was Cher cool? What was Cher like to work with though? Was she a
she's great. You know,
nice person to be around.
TV special with. There's a long story that's going to go in the book.
Okay.
Time on that now, but
yeah.
She wanted to do all the parts of West Side Story, so I rehearsed with her for a month so that she could get Sharks, the Jets, Madonna, Maria, Tony, and Anita.
What do you mean she wanted to do all? Oh, she wanted to be able to.
There's no chord changes. You know, everything is, and it had to be a 5-minute medley. You know,
that's what you mean. She wanted to do a medley of all that music. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I did it, and I got it to her. I said, it's too high. Can you bring it down a little bit? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. No, how about a little? You know, that stuff is not easy, you know. But anyway, I got the medley done, and then the guy that did the orchestration, you know who Bill Conti is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He showed
up. He's got a little cassette machine, put it on the piano, and he said, "Okay, play me what you did." Okay, you know. So I did that, and then
didn't Bill Conti write the Rocky theme? Bill Conti.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he conducted
the arrangement on the thing, and then when the thing came out, all arrangements by Bill Conti. I said, "Oh, that's how this works."
Oh, you know? No, yeah. Really?
And then we had on that TV special, she had one section that was Cher was in purgatory, Dolly Parton was the angel, Rod Stewart was the devil.
Wow.
So they were all on, and then at that same time she was going with Gene Simmons. Yeah, so I saw him without his makeup before anybody else did.
Gee.
So it was like a real. But Dolly called me up a little after that. And
You
I
worked
wound up
with
playing
Dolly.
her in Vegas.
Yeah, you
Huh?
did. You worked with Dolly in Vegas.
Yeah, when she was doing it.
9 to 5.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
Dolly.
Oh,
Is she as amazing as she seems? She seems like one of the
she's
most
a
wonderful
beautiful
people.
writer, but she's a beautiful person,
Yeah.
because it's like she had five sisters and six brothers, so it's a big family,
Mm.
you know, and she treated everybody like family, I mean, it was just a wonderful experience. Uh,
Elizabeth told me that Jane Fonda was saying that Dolly Parton is one of the most intelligent people she's
yeah,
ever known.
she is, but she hugged me one time. I still remember
Dolly, I bet.
that. But I
Yeah.
met Carl, her husband.
She's really short,
Yeah.
isn't she, Dolly?
No, not that bad.
No?
About
Well, you're
five,
pretty short too.
something like that, 5 or 6. But Carl would show
Yeah.
up every once in a while. He wanted to talk to me about rock and roll.
Really?
He didn't like country music,
Oh man.
Um,
Oh, and he
but
so
then
so
after
yeah.
Dolly, I toured with. Oh, there's another one. Did a tour with Tanya Tucker, and then it was when she was going with Glenn Campbell,
Man.
and they
You
broke
do
up.
you are working on this book, right? You are just a
Yes, I
walking
am.
Wikipedia
That's
of music
because
history.
there again something like that. They broke up after Glenn came to my room, and then he went down to Sherman Hayes' room to get his guitar, and then goes over to Tanya's room, and next thing we hear is glass breaking and doors slamming.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then when their books came out, Glenn had one story, and then Tanya had another one. But I know what the story was because Glenn borrowed my cassette machine so he could play a song for it. So, but anyway,
you know what happened.
after
So
that,
that's
then
in
I
the book
joined,
too, people.
Eric.
You have to get
Huh?
the book for. I'm just telling people they'll have to get the book to fill in the details on some of this
No,
stuff. When is this
no,
book
it's
coming
really-
out, Red? When is this book coming out?
Oh, I don't know. I'm still working on the stories. It's like every time. In fact, because I can get you saved this interview, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, then I can use this for reference.
Yeah. Hey, one of the things I forgot to do was often I will put like a virtual tip bucket up, like a PayPal link or something.
Uh-huh.
And I'm remembering this way too late in the game, but do you have a PayPal.me link?
Yeah, it's
What is it?
PayPal.me Red Young One, which is one.
PayPal.me / Red Young
One.
Red
Young.
Young. The number one?
O-N-E.
O-N-E.
Yeah, I call it One.
Red Young Ome. Right that. Like
One.
that, right?
One.
This is the virtual tip bucket, my friends.
Yeah, and I've got Venmo as well. Yeah, that's it. I've got a Venmo account. That's Red Young 22.
You know what I'll do? I'll say support Red's book.
Yeah,
Let's do it like that. Support Red's book. There, how's that?
I like that.
Yeah.
I
okay.
like that. So
Okay.
anyway, after Tanya, then I joined Eric Burden for a year. The band was too loud. After that year, and he put the Animals together, the original Animals back together, and he wanted me to be the glue between Chaz Chandler, Alan Price, and Eric. And I said, there's not enough money for me to do that. So he begged me. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So then I started working with two girl singers and me on piano around LA. And we play like little nightclubs, Oscars and La Dame and Blue. It's a place called Nucleus Nuance. And Nucleus Nuance, Herbie Hancock picked out it was like a real Hollywood in place. Herbie Hancock picked out the piano. Goldie Hawn was in there quite often. One of the owner's wife was actually a former girlfriend of Eric Burden. So we'd always have it. Back behind the piano, Joni Mitchell had one of her collages behind there, so she'd come in every once in a while.
Cool.
So it was like this real interesting place. But one night, Linda Ronstadt came in there, and she listened to what we were doing, and she said, I just finished doing an album with Nelson Riddle, and I'd love to, Nelson, it was all ballads, and Linda wanted to take it on the road. and Nelson said, if you take it on the road, you're going to put everybody to sleep. You need to have something that's going to pick it up in the middle. She heard us, and we were doing Mr. Sandman. She'd sung that with Dolly and Emmy Lou. So she said, why don't you come over to the office and we'll see if we can rehearse and make it work. So we did. We did Mr. Sandman, Hey Daddy, Choo 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 Boogie, I Got a Gal in Kalamazoo.
Wow. And
Dream.
that's how she found you, coming into that gig, hearing the band.
Yeah.
And going, and then Nelson, did Nelson hear you there too, or did he just encourage her to go find? Did Nelson hear you there too, or did he just encourage Linda to find something like?
No, he encouraged, and she had talked to Manhattan Transfer. She talked to Lorraine Feather, had a band called, I can't remember what her band. Well, that was Leonard Feather's daughter, and she'd listened to a couple others. And she just liked what we did.
Wow.
And plus the girls did all these steps together. So it's kind of like Red and the Red Hots. In fact, I got the name Red and the Red Hots from Linda.
Oh, okay.
But she said...
was that for the show, Red and the Red Hots? You became...
Yeah, well, it started out as the Stepsisters and it became Red and the Red Hots. And I've got a clip on here too. You can...
And did you arranged your guys' work in the show?
I arranged the vocals, and Nelson arranged the orchestra around what I wrote vocally.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I worked with everybody. The first 6 shows we did Radio City, Music Hall. It was Nelson's full orchestra. 48-piece orchestra. And of course, I had grown up listening to Nelson Riddle, Frank Sinatra, and one of my favorite albums was Oscar Peterson with the Nelson Riddle Orchestra. With Nelson Riddle. And they did Someday My Prince Will Come, and Nelson only used like cellos and French horns on the thing. It's just a really sweet thing. And when I wound up meeting, actually the bass player with the first 6 shows was Ray Brown.
Man, the great Ray Brown.
And then I was like, ah.
Oh man, I remember he did some of that with her. Did he play the record? He did the recordings with her, right?
Yeah, I did the recordings with her.
Yeah, those were great records.
Yeah. They did three albums together.
She's another, I don't know, you can speak to what she was like personally, but I admire her so much as an artist too. I think she's not only just a fantastic singer, but a bold professional in terms of charting new directions and doing new things and not being afraid to stretch. She's really done some incredible things.
She was always fighting against everybody, wanting to do something. And in fact, when she wanted to do this thing with Nelson Riddle, basically, her dad was not really a big band leader, but he was a musician, and he would put bands together. So she wanted to do something for him because all she'd heard, all Dad had heard, her singing, "Love Is a Rose" and Heat Wave and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So she wanted to do these songs.
And the record companies wanted her to just keep doing that. They just wanted her to
Joe
stay
Smith, who ran I can't remember the label, Elektra or Asylum or something. He told her, this isn't going to sell. He was only going to press up 75,000 copies. He said, it's going to sell more than that. So she used her promo money to press up the albums. It wound up selling. First album sold 3 million. And then she did the second. And of course, he took us to dinner in New York, said, I knew it was going to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to say that after the fact, isn't it?
But it was just so cool. And Linda, she was like, she would try anything. You don't tell her don't do it. Yeah. And then the next thing she did was La Boheme on Broadway with Gary Morris, with the Italian street orchestra. And then after that, the mariachi thing. So it's like
the Pirates
she wanted to
was
do.
in there somewhere, and she. So of all these people, you played with so many talented and interesting people over the years. How would you, you spoke about Dolly. How would you describe your Linda in the pantheon of people you've played with?
Well, I'm just honored to be working with these people. When I grew up in Fort Worth, nobody came to Fort Worth. I thought it was pretty good, but nobody. It's like, okay, what do I do? So I grew up.
You think nobody came to Fort Worth? You should have been in Amarillo. Nobody came to Fort Worth.
I went to Amarillo.
Actually, it's not
I
true.
played,
I saw Woody
Air
Herman
Force
and
Base up there.
yeah. I saw Woody Herman and Stan Kenton's big bands at the Amarillo Country Club when there was nobody, when there was like
Yeah.
10 people on the dance floor falling asleep. And, my friends and I in the high school jazz band snuck in to see them because we knew who they were, and we're like, oh my God, these guys are in Amarillo at the country club, you know. Yeah, so
But,
I know what you mean. You've played with so many wonderful people, and all of that has informed this incredible range that you have as a musician, and that you bring to play now in so many of the things you do. And we had the show a couple of months back when you and Brannon were on together,
Right.
and unfortunately your connection kept dropping because you were in Mississippi or Alabama at the time, right? And
Alabama.
yeah, okay. And apparently they don't have internet down there, but at least where you were, they didn't.
Well,
But
yeah. I can't remember
Brandon
what it
and I
was.
had a
Not
good
Comcast, but it's something.
Brandon and I had a great chat, but
Yeah.
and he's just he's a whole other series of shows unto himself. He's such a wonderful drummer, wonderful musician, wonderful band leader. Can you talk a little bit about, because I'd love to actually play something of you too, but can you talk a little bit about what he represents and your relationship with him musically in these years since you've come to Austin? Because you guys have been a constant together,
Right.
and have done together. Anybody that has not seen Brannon and Red, your Black Red Black with Ephraim was awesome, and then you guys together just as a duet. You have a way of communicating and a range of musicality in your individual vocabularies that is kind of beyond just about anything I've ever experienced live before.
Well,
Talk about that
learned
relationship.
a lot. We've learned a lot from each other. I've learned a lot more about, because I always wanted to play just straight ahead jazz, and I never could get to that. I mean, I was always like the guy that would have to play the standards, or write this for that. I mean, Red House became, I don't know. It was great. I mean, it was very successful, but I kind of got pigeonholed in this thing. Two girl singers, five horns. Can you do this? Yeah, okay, I'll write out the arrangement. You just become this thing where you're building
Right.
something. But I wanted to get back to, and that's when I started the organ thing. The Red Hots was real popular during the Swingers and the Derby and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy and Roy and Setzer, when all that stuff was going on. And when that started fading out, I just wanted to get back to just play, instead of writing the big thing or being the musical director.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'd known Bruton for years, and he'd been telling me about Brannon and Yogi, and some of these musicians down here in Austin, and I said, yeah. So we did his Spirit World album. We did that out in LA, and I listened to Brannon, and it's like, okay, this guy's got sensitivity and he's got creativity, I mean, he'll create a groove, and all you do is just sit on top of it,
Yeah.
But when I started thinking about it, I came down, I did South by Southwest one time with the drummer that I had. No, actually, I didn't do South by Southwest that time. I had a trio in LA, a guitar player from the Royal Crown Review and a drummer from New Orleans, Kenny Sawala. And we came down, we did 10 dates. This is, I mean, I was working a ton in LA, but it was like these $1,000 a week gigs, and then the rest of the time, it's like you're building more of an event than you are actually playing. And we did a 10-day tour down here, and I played 10 out of 11 nights, clubs. And it's like, we played Sullivan's, we played Continental here and in Houston.
Okay.
It was all this live playing. There isn't live playing like that in LA. LA, you got to be. Well, so, last week the guy set his organ on fire. What are you going to do? I just played. That's you got to have something sensational.
Right.
But I just wanted to play and explore that side of it. So when I met Brannon, And I started coming down here. He booked a gig at the Elephant Room, you know, and we were just going to do an organ trio. Let's see, what was the guy's name? That saxophone from San Antonio. Anyway, I can't think of his name. But I didn't have an organ down here, so I had a keyboard, and I went over to Straight Music, and I got a little Oberheim organ sort of thing, you know. And it was a MIDI control, and it didn't really work that well. So I'd be playing on in a solo, and it'd shut off, and then it'd be a drum solo, you know. But over time, I started bringing the organ down here, and then I realized his influences and my influences were very much the same. But he had a great jazz vocabulary. I mean, you know, he listened to Sly Stone and Isaac Hayes and the Stylistics and all these kind of things that I grew up playing organ on, theme from Shafts and stuff, you know. But all of that stuff, and James Brown, all that stuff comes out in his music. But he has a great jazz vocabulary. So he would say, "Hey, let's play Janine." I said, "Oh, wait a minute." Wrote it down. Let's play something else because I don't know that one. And next week,
You'd know
I
it.
know it.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't know these songs. You know, what you call Contemplation, you know, or some of these other things. And then before I left LA, my guitar player friend gave me a whole bunch of recordings of two tenors, you know, Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt, or Syl Austin and
Okay.
you know, Red Price, you know, all that stuff. So when I got down here,
and
playing
that
with
led to the Tenor Madness kind of thing.
yeah,
Maybe.
and that's where all that stuff came from, you know. Jack McDuff, Joe Davis, you know, just all these kind of things. So I knew that would work. And then when I went down to the Elephant Room, the second time I came down here, go down to the Elephant Room, oh man, this would be a perfect organ. How do I get the organ down here? Oh, there's an elevator behind the stage. So I knew that was going to work. And so I started doing that. And then when I started playing with Ephraim, well, actually with Brandon and Ephraim, well, actually at first it was JJ and me and Ephraim.
Okay.
Another
wonderful
JJ would do a different, you know, Ephraim would call up the same tune, but, you know, maybe it'd be in 3 one time and then a funk 4 the next time.
Yeah.
You know, so it like kind of got my creativity in there. And then JJ came in one night and he said, "I'm not going to be here for about 6 weeks. Where are you going to be?" John Mayer. Okay. Went on the road with that. And then it became me and Brandon. And we were playing all the time. And we're listening to each other. And we're talking with each other. And it's just this, I mean, you know, 18 years, you know, it shows doing that. You know? Yeah. A lot of the same influences, a lot of conversations where he'll say, why don't you simplify the bass a little bit? Okay. I do that. You know, and then we've developed this space, you know, and we seldom talk, you know, but we just listen. He listens, I listen, and it just goes where it goes.
Yeah, you guys have he's a fearless musician. You know, I think if that term is the right one to use. And you too, when you're together, you guys, there was something we were talking about earlier about why we play. That it's more than wanting to make money or whatever. It's because we love the music. It's because we love the experience. We love the conversation together. I've come to feel, you know, and it's kind of been driven home in a different way during this lockdown, missing playing in 2020, that you hear different spiritual traditions talk about being present, you know, presentness, the idea of being in the moment, being where you are, not being lost in your thoughts or thinking about the past or the future or whatever. And I think that music gives us, live performance gives us an amazing opportunity for being truly present and really focused and just being open and listening. Because especially when you're playing improvisational music, you absolutely have to submit to it if you're going to be that vessel for the inspiration to move through you, right? And you guys together, there have been moments and there are many, many of them, when I've heard you two playing up at the gallery, for example, where I'm like, this is the essence of being open and present and letting the music move through you. You guys are
sometimes it's a
just
challenge too.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's not.
You gotta
It's
have a challenge.
yeah. I mean, I've experienced those moments too, and it's funny because I'll listen to you with Brannon, and then I'll play with you, and I'll think I will be tempted to chase the idea of what I think you do with him, instead of just being completely open to what might happen between you and me. Does that make sense?
Right.
You guys are
Yep.
so good together that I will be playing with you and I'll feel like I'm chasing something that I can't catch up with. And then I'll start to go, well, maybe what I'm doing is I'm running backwards toward a memory
Right.
instead of
Right.
just listening to what's going on right now.
It's in the present.
And then when I realize that and I get calm and I just stop worrying about whether it's going to be any good or not, and I just focus on going, what is happening right now and how can I add to it and be a part, just get into the
Right.
stream with you. Then it's a lovely and wonderful thing, you know.
Right.
But
And
that's
a lot of times I'll look over, or somebody will be in the audience and they say, "You guys aren't even looking at each other. In fact, your eyes are closed." Well,
but these are
how
open,
do you know
baby.
what you're doing? If you're listening.
Matter of fact, if we look at each other, it might interrupt what we're
Scary.
You know, Red, we're going to have to come back and do
Yeah.
another show because
Okay.
we got halfway through your stuff. There's more to talk about. Would you come back
Oh,
and
I
do some
know.
more?
We
And
should do more, huh?
will you do that? Will you come back and
Oh, absolutely.
because I've been thinking with this show that there are people that there are numerous people that I'm thinking I just need to get back together periodically, you know, with you
Yeah.
guys, and because it's an ongoing conversation. This isn't a one-time thing, and also different kinds of pairings. I mean, I want to do another one with you and Brannon because the one we attempted, you weren't able to continue to be a part of it.
Let's do it while I'm here.
Yeah.
Alabama.
No more Mississippi streaming.
No.
But if there's, think about others that you would like to have this kind of a conversation with, and we should do different pairings too, if you want to.
Mhm.
You know, because I think there's the look back at lives and influences and experiences like this, and then there's also the present conversations about how we're dealing with and coping with this world we're living in right now, and how we're keeping our sanity and trying to, and how we move forward with a sense of carrying on this beautiful legacy that we're talking about of this universal language of music, you know.
Well, some of it's just, like, I mean, some of the things that I've done that I like to do is bring whatever experience that I have and get a whole bunch of different people. I mean, that was the premise for the Hot Horns.
Yeah.
You know, when I started doing that thing, because I wanted to get guys that were good readers and guys that were maybe not good readers, and younger, the young with the energy. So when I started doing that thing over there at Antone, I had David Young, Steve Butts, Kaz, Daniel Robinson, and Dan Bechtold. And there's good readers in there, but then you get somebody like Daniel, maybe his reading wasn't the best, but you get him around the people that are good readers.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got such energy when he solos that everybody would be going, whoa.
Damn. Yeah.
And so it's like this influence. That's the only time that happens, because music doesn't lie. It's a conversation, and when you put energy in that conversation or do something that the other person doesn't expect, you have a choice of either saying, I'm not going to keep up with this, or that's cool. Here, let me add to it.
Yeah, it's a river, man. It's getting in a river together. It's a
Yeah.
it's a fantastic thing. I don't think it's possible to articulate all of the ways that being a musician has impacted my life,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Right.
Relationships, perspectives on things, patience in certain situations, openness to things.
Right.
There's just it's so important, and that's why we got to continue to figure out a way to keep this
Right.
stuff moving,
Well, we will.
happening. You know.
Next time, I've done Delbert McClinton's cruise for 18 years. Um, about 8 of those years, I started doing a late night piano bar. And late night piano bar started off with when Raul Malo said, it'd be nice if we had someplace on this boat where we could find a piano, I could just sing Moon River and Stardust and things like that. Oh, cool. So we found a piano bar. Didn't have any sound system. It was a small room, held about 40 people, and you came in there, you had to close the door and no talking. And it'd be packed every night, 1 o'clock to about 4 in the morning. And it was just me playing piano and different people coming up and singing. And there wasn't
Cool.
really any rules, but because it was a piano bar, they would come up with songs that they knew that, maybe they learned from their folks,
Yeah.
Teresa James or Marcia Ball singing I'll Be Seeing You, or Lucas Nelson singing Stardust, Well, a lot of that stuff is filmed, and those things are perfect. Or you got 4 horn players show up, and you got Big Joe Mayer playing a snare drum and brushes, or just playing brushes on the bar, or playing it on a glass or something. But piano, no bass, no nothing else. So it was like challenging for me because I was basically the band. There's instant arranging for whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
And like when Lucas came in, first of all, he sounded like his dad. The more I got to playing, he became Lucas, So I'm going to bring some of those clips in next time.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Because
Yeah.
it's really cool because it's like there was no arrangements. It was just, hey, do you know this song? Yeah. You know what key? No. Okay, sing it. Okay, and they'd sing it, and I'd find out what the key they're in and have to play that difficult song, whatever it was, in whatever
Wow.
key. If it was E, that's okay, or B. Can you sing it in B flat? No, I'd rather not. Okay, then B it is.
Yeah, that people talk about curation of things or the library of an art collection. It's kind of like you in a role like that, you're curating life for people
Right.
in a moment like that.
And it's history too. Maybe somebody knows. Part of the lyric. I think Shelley King came in one time. She wanted to sing something, and she almost had the lyrics to a song, but I had to feed them to her.
That's cool.
But that was cool. It's like, good, we made it through.
So
Yeah, I'd love to.
let's do it soon. Let's not say, hey, let's do it. And like Mike Mordecai, we did one. And of course, things have been going on in Mike's life and mine. We both have, some health things we dealt with and stuff. I'm going to get Mike back on again soon. But I would like to do something in the next couple of weeks if you have time to come back
I'm
on.
here.
Let's just come back again in a week or whatever if you can do it, and let's go
That sounds
on.
good to me.
Let's continue on with this conversation, and if you think of anybody else you'd like to have join, even at any point in the conversation, that's the beauty of this platform is I can just give them the link and bang, they can join us.
Well, I'd like to do one more, just you and me.
Just you and me, yeah.
And actually kind of get more into the music part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The history part is good, but I think that's going to be good for the book.
Yeah.
Support Red's book, by the way.
Yeah. Support Red's book. Do you see that link at the top of the page? I missed the first freaking hour and a half of having that link up there. But anybody that's still on, you want to hit Red with a little change, that would be fantastic. He has an amazing story to tell.
Yeah, the premise of the book, it started off, it was just going to be the history of, what I've been through and everything. But the more I start thinking about it and start putting the stories together, the more I'm realizing it's all a connection. It's like you meet this one, like Joyce Jones, like I said, I mean, last time I saw her was when I was 10 years old. And the next time I saw her, I was 60, And
Yeah.
then we talked about, so what have you been doing in the meantime? Oh, you did that? Wow, this is what you discovered. It's just, or the person that shows up and maybe you meet a bass player 20 years ago and then somebody needs a bass player and you say, wonder what happened to him? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the right person for the gig.
Yeah.
It's just a circle, Jim Vaughn.
Yeah, I love that when you told me about
Yeah,
Jim Vaughn, and then I'm like, hey, that dude was the
right,
first drum teacher I ever had.
right.
The 1 year I was at North Texas State in 1978, and I was ready to quit music. And Rich Madison said, you need to go down to Dallas and meet Jim Vaughn. He can help you. And I went to him, and he talked me into continuing to work at the drums. And so, bless his heart, he was a big part of the reason why I kept trying to do what I wanted to do, you know.
And
And then,
I wanted to meet Pete Fountain. And then Jim played with him. And then not only did I meet him, but I played with him.
wow,
I sat in with him. Like,
that's cool.
you never know. You just never know. You just have to say yes.
That's right.
So yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna call you, and we're gonna get back here, and let's do it in a week. And this is phenomenal, and we can talk too about the music and share more music and
Right.
get into that more deeply. But this has
Right.
been
So
terrific. So
yeah, I mean a lot of stuff I have is not from back then. I've only got a couple of videos from I've got one video from Ronstadt and a couple from Joan Armatrading, a couple of them from Eric Burden. That's all ancient history, you know.
hmm.
And it's good to look at,
Well,
but I
and
mean,
let's say this one more time, everybody. I'll take some of these links off because I got so many things on the screen. You can't see what we're talking about. But Red Young's YouTube channel has a lot of
right.
great videos. So if you go to redyoung.com, you link to the channel from there, right, Red?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it says YouTube on the top of redyoung.com and you hit the YouTube button.
Yep, it's see, it's got Red Young there, and the link, if you just go to his website, redyoung.com, you will
Yeah.
find the link to his YouTube channel. And again, support Red's book,
Yeah.
redyoung.com. And if you
Yeah.
want to see more episodes of SL Radio, you go to scottlaningham.com/SLRadio. But that's the third most important link in these three right now. The first one is Red's book. The next tier down is redyoung.com. And if you got any interest left at that point, then check out SL Radio.
Yeah. Scott, thanks.
Red is going to be back. We're going to have him back in a week, and we're
Yeah.
going to continue this conversation. And thank you, my dear friend.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Enjoyed it.
Okay, man. Me too.
Bring some food next.